Hi guys! Today I am going to explain why it's so common for budding clairvoyants to see things out of the corner of your eye. There's a lot to it, and once you understand why, it actually can assist you in developing all of your multidimensional awareness, not just your clairvoyance. So stay tuned. For those of you who don't know me, hi, my name is Susan. Welcome. I am a mentor for spiritually awakening women, and you can find me on Facebook in my group, Divining Women. I was born clairvoyant. I had a really hard time growing up because of it, and that's why I do what I do today. So welcome, you guys, and this is a really big subject. If you've been in the metaphysical community at all, I'm sure that you've heard of seeing sparkles or streaks or anything of the like out of the corner of your eye, and you've probably wondered, why is that? Why is it always the corner of your eye? Why is it always your peripheral vision? Why can't, I guess I'm just talking like for myself. I used to always wonder this. I'd be like, why can't it just be plainly in front of you? What is that? I would always get offended if I felt like my guides were not giving me something plainly. I would go like in and out of phases of feeling like, enough with the riddles, enough with like Confucius, just give it to me straight, you know? And I was born clairvoyant, but when I first started trying to hold clairvoyant images steady in my gaze, I did wonder that. Why is it so much easier to hold something like that in your gaze when you're not looking directly at it? And then when you're learning to see auras, if you guys, if you haven't done this yet, the first thing you're gonna learn when you are taught to see auras, like, you don't look straight at it. What is that? You fuzzily look, or you look a little bit to the side. You'll see this pattern. It's everywhere. And it took me a while to get it, but I do now. And it's really beautiful, actually. And it speaks to the power of the ego. And the ego is awesome. The ego is, simply put, your personality, your likes, your preferences, everything that makes you you. And your ego is just as beautiful as the eternal part of you. Everything about you, everything about your personality, from your strengths to your greatest flaws, are completely on purpose. I want to put that out there like right now. So as we go into developing our clairvoyance, you're gonna notice this pattern. Your peripheral vision is actually far stronger and far more reliable than direct gaze, for one reason. Whatever you gaze directly at, without even realizing, and this is totally natural, but whatever you gaze directly at, your brain is already processing with it. Your brain's already kicking up its filters. Your brain is, in essence, already distorting it. Because whatever you're gazing directly at, your personality, your brain, your mind, is necessarily processing whatever it is you're looking at. Versus your peripheral vision. Your brain's not processing that. It's kind of like this free zone where, yeah, your cones and rods are technically still picking things up, but your ego and your brain and your mind are not focused on it. And that is why if you're a budding clairvoyant, that is why you will so often notice things out of the corner of your eyes. That's why. It's a complete part of your field of vision that is least tied to the ego. In the same way, that's why when you're half asleep, you're most open to communication from spirit. That is why when you're driving or showering, you'll suddenly get downloads or inspiration. Because you're doing something. You're half engaged. Like you're doing something and it's enough to keep part of your focus, but it's not something that really requires your full attention. When you're driving, it's kind of an autopilot thing. When you're showering, it's kind of an autopilot thing. When you're doing the dishes or folding clothes, you are focused, but you're half focused. It's kind of an autopilot thing. Which means at least half of you is a lot more open to being aware of multi-dimensional information. It's pretty amazing. And I'll tell you, when you're learning to see auras, that's when you see this flat out. Hopefully, whomever is teaching you is telling you straight away, do not try to gaze directly at your aura. That will not work. What will work is picking a place to the side or gazing at your hair, that line where your hair is against the backdrop, something like that. That will work. And as somebody who's been clairvoyant my whole life, when I am trying to hold an image, when there is some being in front of me, for example, when an archangel comes, that's such a beautiful thing, but I gotta tell you, if it happens and it takes me unaware and just out of that knee-jerk reaction, I just try to gaze directly at it. It's like for that moment, I can't discern it anymore. And then I remember, oh wait, hold up. It's not like that. That's not the sense. That's not the sight we're actually using. I quickly remember and I fuzz out my eyes and I look slightly to the side. And there that being is. And that's how I hold it. Even as somebody who is born clairvoyant, that peripheral vision, that soft gaze, is still how I hold any clairvoyant vision in place. So this kind of ties into developing any one of your clairs. And I did make a video on this. how to develop your clairs. And I talked about it, how having some kind of white noise if you're trying to practice your clairaudience, or having some kind of light or dark input if you're trying to practice your clairvoyance, or having a strong emotional surge if you're trying to practice your clairsentience, like that. Having something to work with, having something of whatever avenue that clair is, having something in place, it makes it far easier to practice. And again, that's why so often we'll get inspired when we're only half engaged. Look for the pattern, you'll notice it. It's so interesting. But guys, that's the deal. that's the deal with this really common fact why things are always out of the side of your eye, right? Especially at first. There is a reason for peripheral vision being so much more linked and natural to this process of clairvoyance. And it's not because your guides are trying to make it tricky or trying to hide. It's not that at all. I used to get like really weird about that. Like I mentioned, like, why can't we just be super plain? Like, just tell me, you know? But you know what? They are, always. We just kind of have to gear up and better attune to it. So I hope this makes sense of it. I hope you found it as interesting as I did. I really thought it was so cool. It made so much sense. So thank you guys. I love you guys. And I'll see you next week with a new video. Take care.